Capcom presents
Ready?
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes.
Hello and welcome to another Boroshin's Retrospectives. Today taking a look at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes, released on the Sega Naomi arcade hardware in 2000 and the Sega Dreamcast, which is the version I'm playing on now on a Demule, Sega Dreamcast emulator. You may have noticed there was a few sound issues with in the intro, like sort of sound blips. Can't really do much about that. I fiddled around with it. That's about as good as it gets from the seams. There are a few, but apart from that, it does it perfectly fine. Now, this game, to me, is very special. This game holds a great place in my heart, and I think it is, to be honest, quite fantastic. This game, in 2000, has 56 characters. Now, you may have noticed from the intro and from the character select screen, I haven't unlocked them all, because in the home versions, the Dreamcast, PS2 and Xbox versions, you have to unlock them, and it takes quite a long time. Although I am enjoying unlocking them again, just through playing through arcade mode and training mode, stuff like that. You earn points that you use to buy it in this shop. What is it? Yeah, I haven't got them, and I wanted to make the video because I haven't done one in a long time. So, I decided to make them. But anyway, it has 56 characters. Mainly thanks to the fact this is the 4th game in the Versus series and the 6th game overall in the whole Marvel series. And basically, the Capcom were like, what if we just reused all of the sprites that we have for like the Marvel side and filled it out with enough Capcom characters to make a whole roster of games. And that's what they did. So, every Marvel character up to that date is in it that they had made for previous games, and this is what you get. You get Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It also features quite a few new characters. For instance, example, Mr. Cable, who is sort of the front man for the Marvel side, and is one of my favourite characters to play in the game, if not one of my favourite characters in just fighting games in general, just because he's stupid fun. But you also have characters like Marrow. You have all sorts of characters you've got on the Capcom side. You've got Ruby Heart, who was made specifically for this game. You've got Jill Valentine, Tron Bon. You've got a Mingo, who, even though he's made for this game, he was going to have his own platforming game that didn't come out. So he wasn't meant to be an exclusive character for this game, but it turns out he is a cactus who fights people. But it's very good. Yeah, this game has a ridiculous roster, and it has probably, overall, therefore, one of the best rosters of any fighting game ever, because it's got pretty much all the characters you could really want. Now, let's get on to the gameplay. So, it's a 4-button fighting game, which is a departure from the previous Marvel games, which are all 6 buttons. And the way it gets around it is, in order to do mediums in this game, you double tap the lights. So, if you hit a light punch and you press light punch again, you get a medium punch. It's a bit weird to get used to at first, but after that, it becomes quite natural. Then, you have all the other things that this game did. So, you've got firstly 3v3, which is the first time they did it, and it works surprisingly well for a first time attempt. To be honest, they pretty much nailed it. It has things like snapbacks and delayed hyper combos and things like that. So you can do super into super into super. There's all sorts of things that this game did first, and they did it really, really well. It's got the 5-bar meter system, which stayed in Marvel 3. It's just really good. It's got assists that you pick from 3 choices. Admittedly, it doesn't actually tell you what special move it is. It has this weird something type, so you just have to learn what they are. It's a bit bizarre why they didn't just say the names, but expansion type, variety type, projectile type, anti-air type, that's what you get. But overall, I think the gameplay in this game is so solid. I like the fact that you can do 3 normals into a super and it does good damage. I like the fact that everything feels snappy and responsive. It's just fun. The assists in the game are all quite... There's a lot of good assists, so you can make a team of a lot of different assists because they're all quite strong. For instance, a lot of the anti-air assists in the game are very strong, but even some of the ones that just go horizontal, like for instance Juggernaut Punch is alright. Bison's delayed fireball, that one I always like using. That's one of the things that I think this game does a bit better than Marvel 3, is that it's got more viable assists across the whole cast. They're still the best ones, but I remember in Marvel 3, near the sort of beginning of sort of Ultimate, it appeared that every good assist was on Doctor Doom for a while. Even though there are a few good ones like Shenko's swing and things like that. But yeah, the gameplay is so solid. There's lots of fun stuff you can do with a lot of the characters. One of my things I like doing is the cable hop, where you do off of a heavy kick, standing heavy kick, you can super jump after you recover, and instant air his air super hyper viper beam, and because that comes out in 1 frame, it combos, and then you can loop it, which is really, really fun. Probably not intended by them, but it's very, very fun to do, which you sort of saw there, even though I kind of fucked it up because he didn't actually do an instant air. He's still comboed, but you're meant to just keep instant airing it. But it requires quite decent execution, and sometimes I fuck up. But yeah, gameplay, super solid. I think it's fantastic. Now let's take a look at the sort of, I guess, art direction. I don't know, not really art direction, but the sort of rest of it. You've got the 3D backgrounds with 2D sprites, which is quite interesting, which was sort of a thing of the late 90s, early 2000s with a lot of 2D fighting games, bizarrely. CVS2 does it as well. I guess it's just Capcom. Capcom were going through a weird phase where they decided that this is what's going to happen. I think it looks quite good, actually. Some of them have aged, like this Clock Tower stage, I don't think it looks bad, I think it looks alright. Yeah, it's polygonal, but it looks good. Then you've got the actual musical direction of the game. Now that's the real interesting point of this game. You have a sort of fusion jazz soundtrack, which at the time people absolutely hated, because if you look at the previous Marvel games, they have that classic Capcom action-packed sort of theme tune, like everyone's got their theme, and it's classic Capcom sort of 24-bit goodness, really. It's just good Capcom soundtrack. Now this is just such a departure. Now obviously they couldn't do a character theme for every character in this game. It would have been ridiculous, even though they kind of did that in Marvel 3. But, so they decided to go for this jazz soundtrack, which at the time people hated, but now people absolutely love it. I think it's now a staple of the game and it makes it what it is. It's sort of a defining feature of the game. I always liked it because I just like jazz. But I know a lot of people. There are still people that do not like this soundtrack at all. They think it's fucking garbage. Same thing. A lot of people don't like CVS2 soundtrack. I know one of the people at my local, Mr. Jim, Mr. James Jimskull Culhane. He is an adamant person who says that CVS2 soundtrack is garbage. I will defend that soundtrack for days because I think it's fantastic. But I don't know what his opinion on Marvel 2 soundtrack is, but yeah, he doesn't like CVS2's soundtrack. But yeah, anyway, the soundtrack's a bit weird. but I like it, and I think it's become a staple of it as a game. Now on to the tournament, sort of tournament talk of sorts. This game, if you've ever watched it, you may notice that there is not much character variety in high-level tournaments, really. You'll be seeing a lot of Cable, you'll be seeing a lot of Storm, you'll be seeing a lot of Sentinel, maybe a bit of Magneto, maybe a bit of Psylocke, maybe a bit of Captain Commando. However, I think this game, despite being unbalanced, like pretty much every fighting game was back in, like, there isn't really a fighting game, the classic fighting game, that isn't unbalanced for the most part. I mean, the closest thing to a pretty decently balanced fighting game that came around about this time, I think, would be probably Garou Mark of the Wolves, because most of the characters are pretty viable in that. But even then, the top tiers will mop the floor with most of the characters. Mop the floor with most of the characters. But anyway, the reason why I'm a bit of a thing of fine with it is, one, it's a game with 56 characters, it's a bit impossible to balance it properly, and two, the top tiers are really fun. Like, playing Cable's really fun, and playing Sentinel's really fun. They're just, I'm sure if you played it a lot when it was a tournament mainstay, it might have gotten a bit dull, but the game's so much fun to play, and it's so hyped to watch, that I don't know whether you would care. And even then, you used to see a lot of teams, if you just watched sort of pool play, or read about what people's teams were, a lot of people would do a thing of running maybe 2 top tiers and a lower tier character. Some people would run Juggernaut and things like that, because they're not terrible, but they're just nowhere near as good as the top tiers. For instance, some people ran characters that weren't considered top tier, but very good. So for people like, characters like Blackheart were very strong. For instance, Dios, the well-known Blackheart player, probably the best Blackheart player in the world. Like, Blackheart's an ultimate keep-away character, so he can work. There was some character variety, but it was limited because you were forced to run at least some of the top tiers if you were to sort of do any work, really. The game's interesting though, because for instance, the game as being popular, it still is quite popular in a weird way. Like, people really like it. You don't see many people slagging off Marvel 2. There are still people that don't really like Marvel 3. I'm not a massive fan of Marvel 3, but I wouldn't slag it off. I still think it's a fantastic game. But yeah, you don't get people slagging off Marvel 2 because I think it's just kind of unanimously liked. That's the thing. It's nice to look at. I think I don't actually think it's that hard to follow, really. Apart from when Sentinel's on the screen, because Sentinel will be flying up in the air and you won't really see what's going on the ground, and you'll have probably Captain Commando assists coming in constantly. But yeah, overall I think the game's just superb. It's so good, so solid, which is quite impressive, really, for the first time they did 3v3, such a large roster. They kind of nailed it, and it's weird. But yeah. This is one of my favourite fighting games of all time. Sorry about that. Definitely put it in my top 5. I don't know where it'd be in my top 5. It might even be in my top 3, to be honest, because it's had quite the impact on me when I was younger, in a weird, not in like a negative way. That sounded way too extravagant, but it meant a lot. Like, I remember watching it on YouTube. Like, I know that's going to sound weird to some people, but yes, I was watching Marvel 2 clips on YouTube, and I was like, I need to get this game. This game's fantastic. I got it on PS2. Now, the PS2 and Xbox versions didn't come out until 2 years after the Dreamcast version, just as their Marvel license was running out. But yeah, I got it on Dreamcast, and I played it, and I loved it. I was shit at it, because I was, like, 10, but I was garbage at it. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I'd like to thank you for watching Boroshin's Retrospectives. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I do apologise for not making them as frequently as I should. I tried to do a bit better. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.